with the public diplomacy today, and in the remaining two classes, we will continue with both public diplomacy and Indian foreign policy. And how public diplomacy has shaped Indian foreign policy is a very important aspect to understand. It's a part of political communication. And nation branding is another concept, both public diplomacy and nation building. These are intertwined concept and very connected concept. But there are some differences between both this concept, nation building and public diplomacy. Hence, you need to understand the distinguishes between these two very terms, and also some conceptual understanding about both these terms are very, very important, and how public diplomacy is different from propaganda, how public diplomacy is different from even the public relations, how public diplomacy has been different. A new public diplomacy has been different from the past public diplomacy or traditional diplomacy. Now we are talking about new public diplomacy departs from the traditional practices of diplomacy, right? And also how public diplomacy has shaped Indian foreign policy is very important. So in last two classes we have been discussing about national interests. Thank you. uh, National interest happen to be one of the determinants of foreign policy, and today we will be discussing about public diplomacy, and this is also very important aspect to understand Indian foreign policy, because now we are talking about soft power here. So public diplomacy is equivalent to soft power, but there are also some of the nuances you need to know to understand how public diplomacy can be equated to soft power. If public diplomacy is soft power or the nation branding is soft power. Okay, so when we talk about the public diplomacy, it is basically a soft power asset, you might also say, in such a way that it is creating a perception of the nation among the international audience and public and domestic public. So, creating a perception about the nation like India among domestic and international public is what we call public diplomacy, and that too through diplomatic channels as well as through people's democracy. Now, there is also another concept associated with new public diplomacy is people's democracy. So, people, citizens, transactional actors, NGOs, and even the private sectors are also associated in creating that image of the nations, creating a perception about a nation. Now you see, creating an image of a nation, creating a perception of the nation are also two different things. So when you are talking about creating an image of the nation is much more equated with nation branding, as I have already told you. Okay, creating a perception about the nation is dealing with the substance and the content instead of an image. So one is related to visual stimuli, symbolism, etc. So when we talk about nation branding, then it is equated to that visual stimuli, visual culture, and image building. And it is also, the context is such that the context of nation branding is to promote our economic interest. And when you talk about the targeted public, here definitely we are also talking about targeted public. So targeted public, whom with whom we are going to have a perception, for whom we are create to have, for whom we are going to create that perception. The targeted public would be consumers for nation branding. Okay, so here in public diplomacy as well as in nation branding, you are supposed to understand the very goal of both these terms. Okay, terminologies, you are supposed to understand the context of both public diplomacy and nation branding. You are supposed to understand the targeted audience. You are supposed to understand the media, which are being used, channels which are being used, the budget which is being determined by the government, as well as you see, it's very important to understand the time span, the actors, initiators who are involved in shaping the nation branding and public diplomacy. So we come across these two very terms. One is public diplomacy and nation branding. These are interconnected terms. Both are associated with creating a perception of the nation among domestic as well as international public. Okay, but here the definition of public is different in both these terminologies. The goals in both these terminologies, in both the contexts, will be different. Goals, how it would be different, and the context would also be different. Why context would be different? Here in public diplomacy, the context is much more politicized. So here, politicized context in the sense that we are trying to create a perception among foreign audience, among foreign public, in order to enhance our bilateral ties, bilateral relationship, and also create multilateral forum. To enhance multilateral forum and get benefited from the multilateral forum is what you see the public diplomacy context, context of public diplomacy. But when we talk about context of nation branding, here definitely, we want to enhance the bilateral ties, but that is through economic interest. Apart from political interest, we want the growth of trade, okay, and businesses among the countries. So here we also see the creating a nation and creating an image of the nation would be such that it should be always positive in nation branding. The way we create a brand of the nation will be positive. But here in public diplomacy, there are chances to also uh, uh, give uh, country give the audiences and public across the country or beyond the country about the negative that's what negative as well as positive of the nations. When I say negative and the positive, in the sense that you won't have to like hide some of the crisis in India. Okay, so here in public diplomacy we focus on the substance and the content, then the image. In nation branding we are focusing on creating that image, so the targeted audiences would be like consumers because they will be consuming that image. And there is also universality of creating that image. So we will create a positive image, we will brand India in such way that they can understand, they can come and invest upon India, so invest in India. So we are inviting foreign direct investment through those words, through those slogans. So when you are talking about the strategy here in nation building and public diplomacy, you will see that there are some strategies like you see the slogans, words, okay, you advertising, okay, at the same time use of traditional media, even the national media, banner, poster, and also you see that promotional advertising, even you see this incredible India ad. So using those you see traditional outlet to create an image of India, okay, is much more equivalent to nation branding. But here in public diplomacy, we are not limiting ourselves to create a positive image of India. You talk about this, you see, external outlet or foreign counterpart of the media outlet of Indian Express and Times of India, Wire, and even the Scroll, how they are disseminating information about India. So creating both positive and the negative image, but you see not an image, the perception that okay, some conflicting situation and tensions are bringing up in India, but we are also as diverse as like, as most of the multilateral countries, and in fact we are having a stable democracy, we are having that secularism. So you actually creating a perception of values, ethos, and the values and principles of Indianness and Hinduism through even public diplomacy. You see the role of the media outlet, how they are trying to create image and perception of the India, and that is a part of public diplomacy. So to bring into focus of both these terms and also to help you differentiate between the terms, I would say that first one is equated, public diplomacy is equated to the politicized interest, political interest, and the second, nation branding. Nation branding term is equated with promoting both political and economic interest. So here, if we look into the targeted audience, whom we are targeted, so who will consume our content. So because there is an inherent intent to save the cognition of the public, right? So public will be both domestic and international public. But for public diplomacy, they are citizens of foreign, citizens of even domestic citizens, okay, citizen of foreign countries. They are treated it that way. Okay, but here in nation building, we try to create an universal image. Okay, and we also try to bring in that universality of our values and their ethos, and targeted these audiences would be consumers. We consider them as a consumer. And when you talk about the actor and initiators in public diplomacy as well as in nation branding, we get to find some of the actors and initiators. Suppose government happen to be the actors and initiators. Right, but here in public diplomacy, not only government is the one actor. You get to see there are transactional actors, there are NGOs, there are media, and also we see different stakeholders. Even people happen to be the actor and initiator of public diplomacy. But here in nation branding, you get to see only the government happen to be the initiator and actor of branding that image of the nation. So in that way, you can see some differences. The kind of media which are being used in both these contexts. You see, in public diplomacy, we now focus more on using social media, and social media is used by, you see, the youth and politically enthusiastic use, and they create a image, the perception of the nations, and that may be positive and a negative, but at the same time help to frame a public opinion and from public opinion. So when we are talking about framing and forming a public opinion, both are different. Forming a public opinion, which is spontaneous, and framing and public opinion is not spontaneous, right? So you are framing it. That means you are actually what you are doing. So you are trying to shaping and cognitions, and you are framing that opinion. So in nation branding, we are actually trying to frame that public opinion. But in public diplomacy, we just want our public to spontaneously engulf and gallop whatever perception is being sending and disseminated to them. Okay, sent and disseminated to them. So in that way, we can see some of the differences. Budget wise, also you can see, and the time span. You Nation branding is basically taken for a period of time. It is a project. But when you talk about that public diplomacy, it's an ongoing project. It is an ongoing project, you say. It is not limited for a particular period of time. So that's how you can see the differences between these two terminologies. Now you see that public diplomacy is equated to soft power asset. Okay, soft power is also one terminology which was coined by Joseph Nye. Joseph Nye coined this term in 1960s. Many people said that that term itself, public diplomacy, is um, uh, coined prior to soft power, prior to the coinage of this term soft power, because Edmund Gallian is one scholar from USA who profounded that term, originated that term called public diplomacy. And later on, we also focused on during 70s and 80s. Focus was more on soft power assets which are intangible, assets which can promote bilateral relationship between the countries beyond the hard power realities, beyond economic sanction. okay, beyond military interventions. Because you see, prior to 1970s and even the 80s, we focus more on the hard power. International politics focus more on hard power in a bloc politics, alliances, military alliances, and also through military interventions tried to get control over the territory of one country. But you see, after the 1970s and 80s, we focus more on soft power asset. So how we make one country do what we want, and that too by convincing and seducing that country through our heritage and asset. And to focus on our heritage and the asset, we are trying to calling uh, out our heritage and asset. Like Hindi happens to be one heritage. Okay, so yeah, we are talking about decolonizing voices nowadays, decolonizing even the that elitism. So even the de-elitism is also one phrase have come out. Okay, so there is no elite politics. There is a popular cultures. So government is focusing on the populist strategies. So when we talk about the selfie with daughters, we talk about this Make in India, we talk about even you see Man Ki Baat, all are of populist nature. These are populist strategies. And how government of India, even when you talk about diplomacy, when you talk about nation branding, actor and initiators happens to be government, right? Government happen to be actor and initiator. How government is also trying to bring foreign policy goal to the primacy of you see election is another populist strategy. So initially, foreign policy happened to be isolated affairs for government. Foreign policy will never make government win an election. But now the primacy of foreign policy has brought to the center stage of domestic politics and in the election process. And that's how you see that the whole politics has been popularized. Even some of the schemes, if you look into the schemes, Make in India schemes, inviting foreign direct investment to India, and through some reforms which are being created, spat of reforms have been created through those schemes, Make in India schemes like single window clearance. Otherwise, this business outlet have to move to different, like windows to get their that whatever their that customs clarified, and that reducing this tariff. So these are some of this like reforms which are being introduced as a part of Make in India schemes, and they try to invest on the economic interest, try to invest on even uh, uh, that's what promote the economic growth, right? Apart from that, we also have see the mm, policies related to de-elitification. When we talk about de-elitification, is that uh, if we look into the civil service cadre initially, civil service cadre were highly anglicized, English speaking people. They are trained and also educated from Stephenians. Okay, and there is also a that is what diplomatic poeticism, the way they speak. Okay, but now you see that this current government, ruling government, has already de-elitified that whole process. They try to bring in cadre from even the provinces, rural provinces, whose English is not equivalent or adject to that democratic or sorry diplomatic poeticism. But still, in a way, they have decolonized that group. That civil service has been decolonized because you give space to all those see nuances of the language or of the phonetics of the way we speak. Okay, so giving space to those nuances is also very very important. And at the same time, you are also highlighting the narratives of those rural and provincial background, because people, a civil servant from those rural provincial background and even from a different caste, different class, have different narratives So you're giving a space to them, and you are also making them a part of the ruling elite, is also a part of soft power asset of India. So when we talk about public diplomacy, it is not something which is simply relating to creating a cognition, changing cognition of the public, information dissemination to foreign public and domestic public. What kind of information you will be disseminating, and the kind of perception you will be creating. This is also a kind of perception that you have created. You see that the government has, for the first time, hosted foreign policy conferences in Hindi language. That is also, that has created a perception that we have given primacy to Hindi languages. Okay, at the same time, that Indian Council of World Affairs, we have two very important institutions, and those important institutions are related to promotion of soft power as well as public diplomacy, because those have, you see, tangled with some of the very important Indian traditions. So if you look into this Indian Council for Cultural Relations and Indian Council for of World Affairs, these two important institutions uh, are also promoting public diplomacy and soft power asset, and through various scholarships, through research activities, through cultural exchange, through academic exchanges, through even providing some kind of scholarships and introducing schemes, and making scholars, Indian scholars, available in that international front in different countries, to teach Indian philosophy, to teach Indian history, to teach even the Hindi language, okay, and to teach Indian culture, is a very important step to promote public diplomacy. Okay, and you see that Indian Council of World Affairs have also, you see what I have said. It was also marked as an importance, an institution of importance by Act of Parliament. Has been carrying out various research and are focusing on this Indian local, that knowledge, okay, and Indian knowledge system. That's how also promoting. You see, this Indian foreign, sorry, promoting soft power asset. So like that way, we talk about some of the changes we get to see in terms of foreign policy, and there are a long list of soft power asset, but you cannot measure this soft power, how soft power is um, uh, uh, being implemented, or you cannot measure any kind of soft power interventions by the government. Why? Because soft power itself is highly uh, intangible. You talk about Indian dance, various Indian dance getting fused with the Western music. So how will you measure it? Okay, so you can measure, what you can do is measuring this opinion of public, domestic public as well as international public, about Indian culture, about Indian heritage, how they feel, how much they have learned, and what they have embraced. That's what you can do, and you can analyze the success and accomplishment of soft power intervention. Okay, but beyond that, I don't think that you can actually measure the intervention of soft power. But you see, Indian government after 2000, and especially after 2026, have been investing a lot on the soft power asset, because Ministry of External Affairs, if we talk about the MOIA, Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs, which was first instituted, which was first known as Ministry of Non-Resident Indian Affairs. In 2004, it was instituted, and in 2006, it was also renamed as Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs. Okay, they came up with various schemes. Those schemes are also, those schemes, when we discuss about Make in India, even like Digital India, that is also a program, part of soft power. There are schemes like OCI schemes, okay, overseas Indian, overseas citizen Indian card, to give free visa entry to some of the NRIs. Okay, That is also another skill. We also talk about um, that is know your that is a genealogy, that is a know India program is also there. That actually that is meant for 3 weeks orientation program to a few students aged between 18 to 26 students, overseas students, NRI students, to give them chance to even study in Indian university, giving them scholarship to study in Indian university with 3 week orientations about Indian culture and heritage. So this kind of you see schemes and approaches government has taken as an actor, as an initiator to public diplomacy in India, and these kind of approaches are known as soft power approaches. When you try to seduce the other country, create a perception among the domestic as well as international public about India by seducing them and convincing them about our culture. Here, seduce is not used in that way. We are talking about creating attraction among them about our culture and our heritage through this very approach. So, Bollywood is apart from that. We also have Bollywood, right? Bollywood is also another like soft power asset. So we can't say that we have attained a huge success to Bollywood, but yet we must see that the Bollywood films are very famous. Even in Morocco, there are people who watch Bollywood films and they are quite enamored by those Bollywood films. One person asked me about Dosti. So we had a conversation started with some of the latest Bollywood movies. Then he said that he has watched Dosti for 10 times, and I could not even remember that film. But he then narrated the whole story of Dosti, and he also sang a song. Okay, so you see that Bollywood films are very popular in UK, Canada, in Morocco, in African countries. Films are very popular, and also they got to understand about people outside India, got to understand about our culture, heritage, about our dress code, about even the jewelry from Bollywood films. Because when they perceive India, they have an understanding that we wear very heavy jewelry. Okay, they have an understanding. They have an understanding that we wear sari, right? So that and sari and heavily crafted sari, they do have that understanding, and they love those saris and the jewelries, and that image came from the Bollywood. And even you see that in few countries, if you see the Indonesia and even in the countries from Southeast Asia, they want to go for co-productions, shooting, and also in terms of screenplay, jointly doing the screenplay and scripting with Indian directors. So that is also another soft power interventions. And even in certain countries, even in Saudi Arabia, a ticket is sold up to like $1. Sorry, that 1 billion Indian ticket. So you see, value would be so money value is much more higher. You see that when you talk about Morocco, they have a dirham. So I say that uh, the a water bottle which I can buy for 10 rupees here in India will cost 100 rupees out there. Okay, so that is the difference between uh, South Asian country, and even not even South Asia, in the developing country, and European country. So even not all African countries are that poor. So compared to like if you, it's a North African country. Morocco is a North African country and a rich country, comparatively richer than India, and and you also see you cannot buy a cloth in Morocco with that is even the 100 dirhams in your pocket, 100 dirhams, because if I want to buy a kaftan and all, so it will take me 150 dirham. That means 150 dirham. That means you see how much 1,500. No? So that is a very minimum, and that too a very at the minimum price. 150 dirham is minimal price. That That is very, and you can't eat anything beyond 30 dirham. So there are also 30 dirham in the 300 rupees. I mean, so you see that there are 28. There are shawarma which is available for 28 dirham. That is 280 dirham. Shawarma is available. Uh, and so food culture, you also see food culture is also a very important soft power asset. Okay, we Indian are known for lazy food, right? So and vegetarian diet, and people from European countries as well as Western countries are following that vegetarian diet nowadays, and they know that Indians love this kind of foods. Okay, and they are also sensitive to our, oh, you are Indian, so okay, that beef is there. There are few restaurants you will get to see when you see people from Indians wearing kurta, they will definitely identify that you are from India. Wearing necklace other, even they consider it as a sari. Okay, they think that okay, you are from India, so definitely you are not going to have this very meat and all. So they have a perception, they build a perception. That perception came from the film, Bollywood film. Even. And you see, Bollywood has also popularized some of the provincial culture. If you talk about the Karbasha, they know about Karbasha because one person, Dubna told me, and she also uttered some galis in Hindi. He said that, ma'am, I learned all those galis in Hindi. Okay, Monica, why have you learned? So I have a strategy. I learned all the galis in all other languages. Now you see, I will throw these galis to Arabic and a French person when they will try to do some kind of skirmishes with me because they will not understand, no. So and I used to throw galis to some French galis to perhaps to another person who will not understand it. So that is the benefit of learning the galis. So she told me that. Okay, so they have learned all this from even the Indian movies. Indian movies are influential, but still we are supposed to. We have miles to go. We cannot say that. Okay, so it is very popularized and all. In certain provinces, you get to find okay, Hindi movies are quite popular movies. Even in Morocco, in Marrakech, Hindi movies are popular compared to Casablanca. Now, Casablanca is a modern urban city. In Casablanca, you won't get to see that flavor of Hindi. But in Morocco, in Marrakech, you actually see people are enamored by Hindi movies. Okay, Hindi movies. Every galiya, in every byline, you get to find when they saw me, that Amitabh Bachchan, Shahrukh Khan, or Dil To Pagal Hai, like that kind of, they know those dialogues. And they are using those dialogue to even, you see, at the same time, to convince us, to appeal us to buy something. So they actually see how they have used that. They use even the movies. They learn Indian culture, and they understand. Okay, this person from India. They don't have to ask me whether you are from India or from other countries. They understand from my dress, from attire. They could understand, and I know that you are from India. You come. They start singing a Hindi song and all. Okay, and even naming those Indian actors like that Shahrukh Khan, Amitabh Bachchan, and Vinod Khanna and all those the latest stars. So they actually utter their names, and they used to sing a song and try to convince us. Okay, we are singing your songs. You come and buy. We know we are similar like that. Okay, so we are similar. You come and buy us. So you see that popularizing that Hindi culture is also a kind of soft power asset. The Indian government and promoting yoga, promoting Ayurveda. Now you see that there is an aggressive superiority of provincial Indian culture. Promotion of provincial Indian culture is also a part of soft power strategy of the government. So government has undertaken various soft power strategy, and these are also strategies for public diplomacy. Okay, so when we actually discuss about public diplomacy, what many things to know. First is the very concept. Okay, what is that concept? So it is the use of uh, actors and initiators. How we define public diplomacy is very important. Public diplomacy is the use of actors, initiators. Now, who are the actors and initiators? I'll be saying later. So, as I have already told you, use of actors and initiators to promote the perception of the nation among the domestic and the foreign public. Okay. So that is what is the basic concept, right? Of public diplomacy. Now you see, nation branding is a very crucial component of public diplomacy. But many a time, branding is inherent in public diplomacy, but you can also distinguish both. Okay, how you can distinguish? Because nation branding is looking for economic interest. It is promoting economic interest, and public diplomacy is promoting political as well as economic interest, but mostly the political interest. Okay, so context will be different and goals will be different, and public diplomacy is decentralized. Okay, but nation branding is hierarchical in a sense and centralized. If we look into the working of actors initiators, only government is involved and also private sectors are involved, but it is basically not involving any consumers and citizens in nation branding. But here in public diplomacy, to get to see the involvement of the people, that like youth. When you people discuss about our nations, it also an effort of public diplomacy in a way. We are promoting the image of the nation. So here, when we talk about the public diplomacy, it involves the citizens. So actors, initiators involve citizens, that youth, apart from the Ministry of Cultural Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and apart from government, apart from NGOs and non-state actors. Okay, initiators are actually different, and non-state actors play a very crucial role in public diplomacy. Why? Because you see that Cold War model has already claimed that uh, states across the world has to revisit their approaches. So there is a revision of approaches of the state. Okay, earlier we had a state-led model of that balance of power. When we talk about balance of power, we get to see the agreement and contract between this among the states, right? To create an alliance, to create a collective defense among that alliance against an aggression. So this balance of power and the traditional diplomacy, even you see, it is more of state centric. But after 19 you see the 70s and 80s, we are focusing on, you see, one is public broadcasting, and second one is non-state transactional actors, huh, who are promoting the image of the nations even through certain agendas like climate change. We talk about even sustainability, climate change, ending domestic violence, ending terrorism. Even these are the issues which are percolated. Now we are focusing on women empowerment at the same time. So these issues are being taken to the international front by NGOs. There are different NGOs working on human rights front, working on climate front. So different NGOs are working in different front, and they're trying to promote the cause of the nation, cause of each nations. Many local NGOs are working with international NGOs. They're promoting the cause of the nation as well as presenting the cases of respective countries in front of the world. In that way, they happen to be a very important, crucial actor of public diplomacy, initiator of public diplomacy. But here in nation branding, we can't equate, because their role is much more critical. So they critically analyze the ground realities, whatever is happening. They are not going to create a very positive and glossy image of India. But here in nation branding, government is definitely present a glossy image of India, right? Through campaign, even Incredible India, because there is a goal associated. Because we consider public as a consumer, they should consume our services, they should come invest, they should come and stay and visit Indian cities, even increase our tourism. Okay, so there is a role in nation branding in terms government role, and that is very hierarchical and centralized. But in public diplomacy, we get to see that decentralized approach, which invite the role of NGOs, even some of the private stakeholders, citizens, and even the youth, okay, apart from the government, okay, and as well as the media, okay. So that's how we see that both these concepts are different. Huh? Mm, then, do you have any question? Any question? Understood? Huh? Any question, Nikita?
The tourism campaigns or advertisement that we see on television or the medias, are they also a part of nation branding?
Yeah. All the tourism campaign Incredible India part of nation building, each and every campaign. Okay, because when we talk about even Bajra and all, Bajra is basically to uh, give a platform to NRI scholars to come and that even part of that Indian academic culture, the kind of you say foreign exchange program, academic exchange program. Okay, that is also a campaign. It has also it is realized as a campaign. So when you talk about any kind of campaign, so that is a part of branding effort. So branding. So it's a nation branding. You are trying to create an image. Okay, how will you create image? Through even latest technology, you can create image. But yeah, control is definitely on government hand. So government will control. But public diplomacy actually stem from the conflict one situation. Even now, you see this after this attack, Pahalgam attack. You can't say that there is a stoppage of public diplomacy. Public diplomacy will continue. Public diplomacy will continue even when a person, even a film actor or even a local resident, will claim and will invite us, come, don't scared of visiting Pahalgam, come and visit Pahalgam, come and visit Kashmir. It's a beautiful place. We are part of India, so we are you. You come and stay with us. So when they are calling, it's also a an effort of public diplomacy on a citizen's part. Okay, so that is a hence we talk about new public diplomacy now. New public diplomacy is different from the traditional public diplomacy just because the platform which are being used by the diplomats are much more diverse and it is much more inclusive and engaging. What kind of platforms they are using now? They are using these digital media tools. Traditional diplomacy can be comments through media, even say public service broadcasting. Public service broadcasting happen to be a very important tool to disseminate perception, information, substance, and content about the nation. Okay, we talk about our All India Radio's arms, which was instituted in 1939, and it we have also international broadcasting across I think 27 countries. Huh. We have international broadcasting stations and broadcast around 100 languages. Okay, and in some languages we broadcast for 8 hours, and in some other languages we broadcast for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so that was a part of traditional public diplomacy. Now we talk about digital diplomacy. How you see this Twitter account, your Facebook handles, Twitter handles uh, of even the government are being used. So many a time this is also a game of algorithms. But yeah, you can actually see that how they have used this platform to project the country's image is very important. Even you see recently, if you see this Indian Diplomacy Division and the YouTube of Indian Diplomacy uploaded some of the latest movies, and that too that is related to Indian heritage. One is on that is that Swarajya, that is a Swatantra Gatha. That was I forgot that is a Swaraj. Swaraj is a movie of 75 episode that depicting the 550 freedom fighters of India. So you will get to find it in YouTube as well as in Indian Diplomacy Division. Their site you get to find it. And also you see they have uploaded some of the footage and videos of uh, uh, Incredible India. In a sense, Incredible India are dance, like beyond tradition. There is also a documentary. Some of the documentaries films are also being uploaded, which are being sought on Indian culture. One is Beyond Tradition, another is on Malika Sarabai's. Then uh, like that, I forgot. There are many uh, like documentaries which are made on Indian culture and heritage. Huh. Um, then Dharuhar Bharat Ki, एक heritage, and it's a tale of revival. That is also one. You might also have you Akash, have you seen watched that series Dharuhar Bharat Ki or Indian heritage, a tale of revival. So it has so that is also uploaded. That's a documentary on Indian heritage, Indian craft, Indian culture. So it's been uploaded in YouTube and Indian public diplomacy divisions. So you get to see how media. So you see role of media has expanded, and platform that we are using is also quite diverse nowadays. So new public diplomacy has used social media as a platform, use including the YouTube, including Twitter, including Facebook, to create a perception of India. Okay, that's how new public diplomacy is different from old public diplomacy. But when you talk about this old and traditional public diplomacy, basically we get to see exchange of officials and the diplomats, right? When we find some of the confidence building measures between two countries to create a lasting bilateral relationship. Okay, but apart from that confidence building measures in new public relationship, we see that the youth as well as the general citizens, they have played a very important role in forming the public opinion of domestic, like public as well as international public, because they are also help in forming an opinion about India outside India. Okay, so perhaps in that line, if you want to do any kind of research related to public diplomacy, so what you can actually look into is the public sphere and formation of public opinion in India and outside world, and uh, how their reactions towards Indian culture, heritage, how much influence they are about our culture and heritage. So that's how it would make sense if you want to do any kind of study related to public diplomacy as well as the accomplishment of soft power. Because so far we have been using soft power on ad hoc basis, let me tell you. Okay, so we are not using soft power the way China has used. As I have already told you in the last class, China has been investing upon infrastructure building in most of the developing countries, in African countries especially, even in South Asian countries, and they want only one that leverage. That leverage they want is to exploit the raw materials. Okay, so that we just want to exploit raw materials and we build infrastructure. Ultimately, what happened in that way, they are exporting, and they are the largest exporting countries of the world. Okay, so they exploit the raw materials and the resources. In the way they are colonizing. Right. So you see, they do have a different soft power policy, but we do not have a very established soft power policy. Whatever we are doing, these are doing on ad hoc basis. Okay, but this is also true that India is so very diverse, so very diverse. We do not have that many centers, cultural centers across the world. Only 14 centers, CCR centers are there across the world. Okay, on only 14 centers. Hmm. Uh, and if you look into the kind of scholarship that we are providing for overseas Indians and the scholars to come and study India, and some chairs we provide, I think 30 chairs we are provide, which has been increased to 49 chairs now. They can come and study India, and there are also no chairs. Sorry, that is different. Scholarship is different, and chairs we provide 49 chairs. That means we actually promote the short term and long term that the stay of some of the Indian scholars to outside world, and they can disseminate about Indian culture. But that has increased to 49, from 30 to 49. Okay, so that is funded by ICCR. Okay, but you see, the China has Confucius that language. I think how many centers? 320 or 22 centers across the world compared to Indian 14 centers. We only have 14 centers across the world to disseminate about our culture, heritage, philosophy. Okay, and you see that China have been disseminating about this Buddhist tradition, culture, and uh, their heritage through their centers, so their institution, and those institutions are, you see, more than 300 in numbers. Okay, so that's the difference. We do not have that policy yet. We can say that some of the schemes have been taken, hence I am saying that it is being used in an ad hoc basis. Some schemes have been taken and trying to make an intervention to create a national branding and to create a perception of India. But this is also not that consistent. Okay, and even if you look into the boon and ban of the schemes, merit, demerits, and how far it is implemented, in what way it is implemented, you also have lot of critical component to discuss. Okay, so but we can cherish our is a rich culture. We can cherish our secularism. We can cherish a stable democracy. We can cherish our multicultural ethos, multi-ethnic ethos. Okay, in front of this world, right? Apart from that, we also have a blend of that atheist and the religiosity and the Sufi and Bhakti movement of India, uh, and as well as the ethos of the freedom fighters we can share. Now we talk about cricket diplomacy, trying to create harmony between two nations. Even that cricket is one instrument trying to create harmony between India and Pakistan, right? So here, hence we say that public diplomacy stem from the very conflict prone situation and the context. Even when you talk about public diplomacy, you see that there is a conflict, and hence it necessitated that diplomatic ventures. But when you talk about the nation branding, the context has to be peaceful. Then only you can talk about nation branding. Okay, so from a very conflict one situation, you cannot think about creating an image of India, a very positive image of India. But when you talk about public diplomacy, so a conflict prone situation will necessitate. You can say that there is conflict, but we should actually see that the other side of India, and you focus on building that relationship, bilateral relationship. So it stems from the conflict. Public diplomacy actually stems from the very conflict. Okay, okay then. Yes. Anything else?